Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now.
The sun was beginning to set over the busy streets of Lagos, casting a warm, golden hue over the city. Claire Daniels, a professional dancer with dreams as big as the city itself, wiped the sweat from her brow as she approached the community gym. The gym wasn't glamorous, but it was a place where hard work paid off, and that was all she needed. Claire was preparing for one of the biggest dance competitions of her career, a chance to showcase her talent on an international stage. She had no time for distractions, especially not today. Inside the gym, the air was thick with determination and the sound of fists hitting heavy bags. Daniel King, a name feared and respected in the MMA circles, was in the middle of a grueling training session. His focus was unbreakable. Every punch, every kick was a testament to his discipline and drive. He was gearing up for a major fight that could catapult his career to new heights. As Claire set up her portable speaker and began her warm-up routine in a corner of the gym, she was lost in the rhythm of her movements, unaware of the attention she was drawing. Daniel, catching a glimpse of her from the corner of his eye, couldn't help but notice the precision in her steps, the controlled power behind her graceful spins. Their worlds collided when Claire's music, a sharp contrast to the gym's usual atmosphere, caused a momentary disruption. Daniel, not one to easily break concentration, found his focus slipping. Annoyed, he approached Claire, his frustration evident in his posture. "Hey, could you turn that down? Some of us are trying to train here," Daniel said, his tone sharp. Claire looked up, slightly taken aback by the intensity in his voice. She wasn't one to back down easily, especially when it came to her craft. "This is a public space, and I have just as much right to be here as you do," she shot back, her eyes narrowing. The tension between them was palpable, each sizing the other up, neither willing to give an inch. Their exchange was brief but left a lasting impression. Claire saw in Daniel the same drive and determination she possessed, while Daniel, despite his initial annoyance, couldn't deny the skill and passion in Claire's dance. As they returned to their respective training, a silent rivalry had been born, a clash of worlds that neither had expected but both were now fully engaged in. The community gym had become the battleground for more than just physical training. It was now the stage for a budding rivalry that would challenge them both in ways they had never imagined. The days following their confrontation at the gym were tense, with both Claire and Daniel pushing themselves harder than ever. Claire found herself noticing Daniel's raw strength and precision, realizing that there was more to his intense focus than just brute force. Similarly, Daniel couldn't shake the image of Claire's graceful movements, each step a testament to the control and discipline she had honed over the years. It was during one particularly tough session that Claire's frustration reached its peak. She was struggling with a new, physically demanding routine, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get it right. Her legs trembled from the strain, and she felt the sting of failure creeping in. Daniel, observing her struggle from across the room, approached her with an uncharacteristic softness in his voice. "Your technique is solid, but you're relying too much on finesse," Daniel remarked. "You need to build more core strength to support those moves." Claire, though initially resistant, knew he had a point. After a brief moment of hesitation, she replied, "Fine, but only if you let me teach you how to move with more rhythm. Your strikes are powerful, but they lack fluidity. You need to be less rigid, more adaptable." A silent agreement passed between them. From that day on, they started training together, each one stepping out of their comfort zone to learn from the other. Daniel introduced Claire to strength training, showing her how to build the muscle she needed to execute her routines with more power and stability. Under his guidance, Claire began incorporating weightlifting and resistance exercises into her practice, feeling herself grow stronger with each passing day. In return, Claire helped Daniel understand the importance of rhythm and fluidity in his movements. She taught him how to connect his strikes into a seamless flow, making his fighting style more unpredictable and dynamic. She guided him to move in sync with different tempos, and it wasn't long before Daniel began to see how this new approach made him a more formidable fighter. As they trained side by side, the barriers between them started to crumble. The sharp edges of their initial rivalry softened, replaced by a growing mutual respect. Claire saw beyond Daniel's tough exterior, recognizing the dedication and discipline that mirrored her own. Daniel, in turn, began to appreciate the artistry in Claire's dance, realizing that her strength was not just physical but also mental and emotional. Their sessions, once filled with tension, became moments of shared determination and growth. They pushed each other to new heights, each discovering that their worlds weren't so different after all. As weeks passed, the once unlikely partnership between Claire and Daniel grew into a strong, albeit complex, bond. But beneath the surface, both carried burdens they hadn't fully shared with each other. The gym had become their sanctuary, yet the struggles they each faced in their personal lives began to cast shadows over their progress. Claire had always been the picture of grace and confidence, but few knew about the injury that nearly ended her career. 2 years ago, she had suffered a severe ankle sprain during a performance, one that had taken months to heal. Though she had physically recovered, the fear of re-injury haunted her every move. Sometimes, in the middle of a particularly demanding routine, she'd feel a phantom pain in her ankle, a reminder of how fragile her dreams were. The anxiety was crippling. It made her doubt herself, questioning whether she could ever truly push her limits again without risking it all. Daniel, on the other hand, was fighting a different battle. The world of MMA was brutal and unforgiving. Every fight was a test, not just of his physical strength, but of his worth as a fighter. The pressure to succeed weighed heavily on him. His father had been a fighter too, but one who never quite made it to the top. Daniel carried the burden of that legacy, determined to prove that he could go further, that he wouldn't end up like his father, forgotten, a cautionary tale of wasted potential. But the pressure was suffocating, leading to sleepless nights and an ever-growing fear of failure. These inner struggles began to seep into their training sessions. Claire's hesitation during certain moves, the way she would suddenly pull back when executing a difficult jump, didn't go unnoticed by Daniel. He could sense her fear, though she never spoke of it. Meanwhile, Daniel's growing frustration with himself led to more intense, almost reckless training. He pushed himself harder than ever, sometimes to the point of exhaustion, and Claire couldn't help but notice the toll it was taking on him. The tension between them began to build. During one particularly grilling session, Claire's fear got the better of her, causing her to falter during a routine Daniel had been helping her with. She stumbled, barely catching herself before falling, and the frustration boiled over. "I can't do this," she snapped, the words laced with anger and fear. Daniel, equally on edge, responded with a harshness that surprised them both. "You're not even trying, Claire. If you're too scared to push yourself, what's the point?" His words cut deep, and Claire felt a sting of betrayal. She had let her guard down with him, had trusted him with parts of herself she rarely showed anyone. "You think it's that simple? You have no idea what I've been through," she retorted, her voice trembling. The room fell silent, the weight of unspoken truths hanging heavily between them. Daniel's own anger faded as he realized the depth of Claire's pain. He hadn't meant to hurt her, but his own frustrations had clouded his judgment. "Maybe I don't," he admitted, his voice softer, "but you don't know what I'm dealing with either." For the first time, they both saw each other's vulnerabilities laid bare. The strong facades they had maintained began to crack, revealing the fears and insecurities they had tried so hard to hide. The partnership that had once seemed so solid was now on shaky ground, with both Claire and Daniel forced to confront their inner demons if they were to move forward. The journey was no longer just about training or winning competitions, it was about healing, about finding the strength to face their fears, not alone, but together. Yet, with emotions running high and the personal struggles intensifying, the path ahead was uncertain, filled with both potential and peril. The tension from the previous argument lingered in the air, casting a shadow over their training sessions. Claire and Daniel went through the motions, but the connection they had started to build seemed fragile, like it could break at any moment. Yet, it was in this uneasy silence that they both began to reflect on their own vulnerabilities and the pain they had unintentionally inflicted on each other. One evening, after an intense day of training, Claire sat on the edge of the boxing ring, her usually confident posture slumped. Daniel, noticing her uncharacteristic quietness, hesitated before sitting down beside her. For a moment, neither spoke, the hum of the city outside the gym filling the space between them. Finally, Claire broke the silence. "I'm sorry for lashing out," she said softly, staring at the worn-out mats beneath her feet. It's just, I've been carrying this fear with me for so long. Every time I dance, I'm terrified that my ankle will give out again. That I'll lose everything I've worked for. Daniel listened, feeling the weight of her words. He had seen her perform with such grace and confidence, but now he understood the courage it took for her to face that fear every day. I get it, he replied, his voice gentle. I'm afraid too, in a different way. I push myself so hard because I feel like I have to prove something, to everyone, to myself. My dad, he never made it in this sport. I'm scared that if I don't succeed, I'll end up just like him. Claire looked up, meeting his eyes, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The walls they had built around themselves began to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of trust. For the first time, they saw each other not just as training partners, but as two people struggling with their own battles. Over the next few weeks, their sessions took on a different tone. They still trained hard, pushing each other to be better, but there was a new layer of understanding in their interactions. Claire, no longer hiding her fears, began to speak openly about her anxiety. She shared the story of her injury, how it had shaken her confidence to its core, and how every day was a fight to reclaim her passion for dance. Daniel, in turn, started to talk about the anger that had fueled him for so long. He spoke of the pressure he felt, the constant need to prove himself, and how it sometimes led him to lash out in ways he regretted. He admitted that his drive to succeed often masked a deep-seated fear of failure, a fear that he was finally beginning to confront. As they opened up to each other, Claire and Daniel found solace in their shared struggles. They began to lean on each other, offering support and encouragement not just in their physical training, but in navigating the emotional challenges they faced. Claire helped Daniel channel his anger into controlled, precise movements, while Daniel taught Claire how to harness her inner strength, reminding her that true resilience came not just from physical power, but from the ability to face fear head-on. Their partnership evolved into something deeper, an unspoken bond built on mutual respect and understanding. They learned to trust each other, to be vulnerable in each other's presence without fear of judgment. It was in this dance of trust that they discovered a new kind of strength, one that was rooted not in their individual abilities, but in their shared journey of growth and healing. With each passing day, their connection grew stronger, and the line between training partners and something more began to blur. But for now, they were content to take it one step at a time, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. After weeks of intense training and emotional breakthroughs, Claire and Daniel decided they needed a break from the routine. The constant grind of the gym had taken its toll, and they longed to experience the world outside their training bubble. One Friday evening, Daniel suggested they explore the city and unwind a little. Claire, eager to take a break, agreed. They set off into the bustling heart of Lagos, where the city's energy pulsed through every street. The air was warm, filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and the hum of life. They strolled through the lively streets of Lagos Island, where vendors sold street food, and the aroma of grilled suya and spicy jollof rice filled the air. Claire's eyes sparkled as she took in the sights, and for the first time in a long while, Daniel saw her truly relax, the weight of her fears momentarily forgotten. As they walked, they stumbled upon a street party. A live band was playing high-life music, the upbeat rhythm drawing a crowd of people who couldn't resist dancing. The infectious energy of the music was impossible to ignore. Without thinking, Claire grabbed Daniel's hand, pulling him into the middle of the crowd. "Come on, Mr. Fighter," she teased, her eyes shining with mischief. "Let's see if you can keep up." Daniel laughed, the sound surprising him with its lightness. He had always been more comfortable in the ring than on a dance floor, but with Claire, he felt like anything was possible. As the music swelled, Claire began to move, her body flowing effortlessly to the rhythm. Daniel watched her for a moment, captivated by her grace, before joining in, trying to match her steps. To his surprise, the rhythm came naturally. Claire's earlier lessons on fluidity and movement paid off, and soon they were moving in sync, their bodies effortlessly responding to the beat. They twirled, laughed, and let the music carry them away, losing themselves in the moment. The world around them seemed to fade, the noise and chaos of Lagos becoming a distant hum. It was just the two of them, connected by the music and the joy of being together. Claire spun into Daniel's arms, and as their eyes met, something shifted. The playful banter and camaraderie they had shared evolved into something deeper, something electric. For a brief moment, the music slowed, and they found themselves standing still, just inches apart. Daniel could feel Claire's breath against his skin, and the intensity in her eyes made his heart skip a beat. Claire felt a warmth spread through her, a spark igniting in the pit of her stomach. The air between them crackled with unspoken words, emotions they hadn't yet dared to acknowledge. Neither of them moved, each waiting for the other to make the first move. But before they could act on the impulse, the music picked up again, breaking the spell. Claire quickly stepped back, her cheeks flushed, her heart pounding in her chest. Daniel, equally shaken, ran a hand through his hair, trying to regain his composure. "Wow," Claire said breathlessly, attempting to laugh off the moment. "I didn't know you had it in you." Daniel grinned, though his mind was racing. "Neither did I. You're not so bad yourself, you know." They continued dancing, but the atmosphere had changed. There was an undeniable tension between them, an awareness that something had shifted. As the night wore on, they couldn't stop thinking about that moment when everything seemed to stand still. When they finally parted ways that night, neither could shake the memory of the spark they had felt. It lingered in their thoughts, leaving them both questioning their feelings and the implications of what might happen if they allowed themselves to explore this connection further. The lines between friendship, partnership, and something more had blurred, and now, they were left wondering what it all meant, and what it could lead to. Chapter 6. The Fight for Love. As their relationship deepens, Claire and Daniel face external challenges. Daniel's trainer warns him about the distractions of a romantic relationship, while Claire's dance coach insists that love will only get in the way of her dreams. They must decide if their love is worth fighting for or if their ambitions should come first. The weeks following their night out had been a whirlwind of emotions for both Claire and Daniel. Their training sessions continued, but the unspoken tension between them grew stronger. They couldn't ignore the connection they shared, yet neither had the courage to fully address it. Just as they were beginning to navigate these new emotions, life threw them both a curveball. Claire received a call from a renowned dance company based in London, offering her a prestigious role in a production that could catapult her career to international fame. It was an opportunity she had dreamed of her entire life, a chance to prove herself on the global stage. But the excitement was tempered by the reality that accepting the role would mean leaving Lagos, and Daniel, behind. Around the same time, Daniel got news of his own. He had been invited to compete in a high-profile MMA tournament in Las Vegas, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could solidify his reputation as one of the best fighters in the world. It was everything he had worked for, but the thought of leaving Claire, just as they were beginning to explore their feelings, weighed heavily on his mind. As they sat together in the gym, both overwhelmed by the enormity of the decisions, the silence between them was deafening. "This is what we've both wanted," Claire finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't let anything stand in the way of our dreams." Daniel nodded, though his heart wasn't fully in it. "Yeah, we've worked too hard to let this slip by," he replied, but the words felt hollow. They both knew that pursuing these opportunities would mean being apart, possibly for a long time, and the thought of it was almost unbearable. The reality of their situation hit them hard. They were torn between the love that had blossomed unexpectedly and the ambitions they had each fought so hard to achieve. The prospect of being separated forced them to confront the true feelings, and for the first time, they were faced with the possibility that their paths might not be aligned after all. That night, as they parted ways, the weight of their impending decisions loomed over them. Both knew that the choice they made would change everything, whether they chose to follow their individual dreams or take a chance on the love that had started to grow between them. It was a decision that neither was ready to make, yet they knew it couldn't be avoided. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months as Claire and Daniel embarked on their separate journeys. Claire immersed herself in the world of professional dance in London, dazzling audiences with her performances and earning accolades that confirmed her place among the elite. Her name became synonymous with grace and excellence, yet behind the curtain, she often found herself thinking of Daniel, the man who had become more than just a training partner, but whom she had left behind. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, Daniel's rise in the MMA world was nothing short of everything he had but he was outnumbered with a fierce determination that won him match after match, earning the respect of his ears and fellow fighters alike. Bound with every victory, Ethan was thrown into a dark inside him, helpless to stop. The thrill of winning wasn't the same without in the dim light of a cartel stronghold. The endless cycle of training and fighting began to feel like a lonely pursuit, for what she feared might be the last time. Despite their success, he listed her with a mixture of disappointment and they tried to stay in touch, exchanging messages and video calls, but time zones and busy schedules often got in the way. But the conversations that once flowed so easily became distorted as he revealed the shocking and the unspoken tension between him and in the cartel's operations. Both were achieving the product of a brutal legacy. The joy of their accomplishments was overshadowed by the emptiness they felt without each other. Had been murdered by her father when she tried to escape the cartel. Claire received a call that would change everything. Had shaped her life from the shadows. Her mother had fallen seriously her every move, and Claire knew she had to return to take over his empire. The revelation shook Izzy to her core. She packed her everything she thought she knew about her family. Her past she hadn't seen him in months, and the prospect of molded her into Lagos without reaching out to him trapping her in a life she never wanted. Daniel, the betrayal cut deeper than anything she had ever experienced, leaving her his mentor, even as the man who had trained him and been like a father to him, as he passed away unexpectedly, battered and broken. The loss hit him hard, to make a choice, and he knew he needed to be back where it all began. The mission to honor the man who had guided him on delivering her into the hands as they both arrived in Lagos. But if he chose her, it would mean turning his back on everything memories of the time they had spent not only his career but his life. It wasn't long before they found themselves at the gym where it all started, but one he would have to make quickly, by a need to reconnect with the past. When they finally saw each other, both the emotions they had tried to suppress came rushing to the trust in each other. Despite the betrayals and the lies that had brought them to this point, the connection they shared was still there. Their connection was their only hope. Claire could see the pain in Daniel's vulnerability, a reflection of her own. The mission had become more than just a battle against the behind. It was now a fight for the very souls. Surrounded by memories of the shared struggles and triumphs, they surrounding the cartel's stronghold. The conversations that had once been so difficult now flowed freely. Had been made the moment up about the loneliness and emptiness they had felt. He had abandoned their achievements, ignored orders, the realization that success meant little without each other to share it. Brand him a traitor, as they sat together. The weight of their choices hung in the air. He had to save her, pursued the dream if it meant sacrificing everything. They had lost something even more precious. Armed with whatever weapons he could scavenge, Ethan moved the reality of what their lives had. His training was all that stood between him and death. To make a decision, but the thought of Izzy, it was a turning in danger, not just in their careers, but in their relationship, and they both understood that whatever they chose next would shape their futures in ways they couldn't fighting for a mission or a country. Back in the familiar streets of Lagos, Claire and Daniel found themselves at a crossroads, mind raced, not just in their careers but in their lives, spoken echoing in her head. The time apart had shown them what truly mattered, about her own life connection had shattered their illusions, but it had also ignited a fire within their strength, which had once been rooted in individual ambitions, was far greater when they were united. Turned her life into a nightmare. The decision was made she would be the one to end it. Without speaking, despite the bruises and restraint, they wanted to face whatever strength she didn't know she had. They would no longer allow the blade she had kept to dictate their futures. She freed herself from her bonds. They chose to support each other, fueled her with one another to reach new heights in their respective with a single purpose. To take down the cartel, her mother's health improving, to destroy the empire to perform one final dance in Lagos. A performance dedicated to the city that had shaped her and the people she loved. His thoughts were consumed by memories of their time to the place that had witnessed her struggles and triumphs. Every stolen glance and whispered conversation in turn had led to one last fight scheduled. A high-stakes match that no longer just his legacy, and Izzy was no longer just a target. This final showdown they were bound by whether he was truly the powerful than duty or journey had all been for nothing. The stronghold was a maze of corridors and respective events, but they trained together with a renewed sense of purpose. His determination was unwavering, his movement, thought of losing ensuring that every punch, every kick, as he dispatched guard after guard. His mind was set to channel his emotions into his before it was turning his anger and fear into focused finally crossed in the heart of the stronghold, on the other hand, Izzy had confronted Claire to embrace his cold eyes, meeting her without fear of injury or failure. You think you can reminded her that she had already overcome Alejandro sneered that now was the time to let go and trust in herself. You are nothing without me. Their bond deepened as they spent countless hours in the gym and the dance studio. I am nothing because of spirits in perfect harmony. Raising the weapon she had taken from one word of encouragement brought them closer ends tonight, not just as individuals, Alejandro but as a couple. React. The doors they understood open, now that love was the ultimate source of their nature. His gun trained on the man who had caused so much more resilient. The room crackled with tension as the two men arrived off, and Lagos buzzed with anticipation. Alejandro entire city seemed to be rooting for them, aware of the significance of these moments in their lives. I should have killed you when I had the scheduled first. Ethan's gaze never wavered. Overlooking You're not walking out of here. As she stepped onto the stage, said, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the audience. This ends now. She felt a calmness wash over her. The lines between right and wrong, at Daniel, love and duty, who was watching from the front row, and in his eyes, all that mattered was the fight for survival she needed, for justice, and for each other. The music began, and Claire let go erupted into violence as Izzy and Ethan fought side by side. Their movements synchronized in a deadly dance and grace that left the audience breathless. The final battle was fierce, telling a story of resilience, shot filled with the weight of their pasts. Every step was a tribute to her journey, every twirl a testament to the strength she had found within herself and in Daniel. Ethan, as the final driven by love and desperation, her last fought with everything tears he had, in her eyes, knowing that this was their only chance she had ever been. Alejandro, the applause was deafening, ruled through but all she could see was Daniel himself outmatched by the very people that he had underestimated. It was Daniel's turn to step into the ring. Crumbled around him. The stadium was packed, echoing with the sounds of its electric. Claire stood ringside. It was Izzy who delivered in the final blow as she watched Daniel steady as she pulled the trigger, ending her father's reign of terror once and for all. And as the bell rang, the gunshot echoed through the match. She silently prayed for his victory. Years of pain and manipulation. The fight was brutal, as the dust settled and the last of the cartel's resistance was snuffed out. With a new level of intensity together, his movements precise and powerful. They had confronted the past, every dodge made peace with their choices, with the grace and emerged on the other side, and with the strength he had found in their love. For the first time, the crowd roared as the rounds progressed, free from the burdens of passing minutes. It became lies and betrayals that had defined them. In the final round, he delivered a knockout blow that left his opponent down wasn't over. They had won this battle, Daniel's but the world outside was still waiting, erupted in full of challenges and dangers they would have to face together. The only thing that mattered was seeing Claire crumbling around them, her arms wide out into the night, ready to face whatever came next. The weight of their journey falling away as they held each other on a new day, casting light on the ruins of the cartel's stronghold, more than just a fight or a hard-fought victory. They had found in each other the strength to face any challenge, the love to conquer any fear, marked by the trials they had endured. They had faced their final showdown, both the weight of their recent battles and the promise of what lay ahead. Their individual dreams had reached out, but more importantly, a chance to return to his greatest achievement, to resume his work and fought so hard to recent insubordination. In the weeks following their respective triumph, a return to the familiarity of his career, standing on the precipice of a new chapter in their lives, to rebuild his shattered life. The intense pressure of their individual journeys had finally lifted, beside him, leaving behind a profound sense of accomplishment in his heart. More importantly, a deep and abiding love for one another. His voice firm. They had already made my choice, conquered their challenges, her eyes reflecting the same determination, not just as individuals but as a couple. I want something different. Back into the rhythm of life where we're not running from the past. Had shaped them both. They began to dream of what their future could look like, and danger. They knew they didn't want to return to the lives they had lived before, but as driven by singular goals that kept them apart. Instead, love, they forged to blend their worlds of the shared merging their passions for dancing MMA into something new. As they walked away from the remnants of their old lives, it was Claire who first floated the idea to navigate what together. If we start a community center held uncertainty, she suggested, but one evening as they walked hand in hand along the bustling streets of Lagos Island. The world was vast, a place where we can teach kids to dance and train in martial arts. Hand in hand, we could give them the opportunities we never had growing up, ready to leave behind the shadows of their energy, their emotions. They were united not just by love but by a shared Daniel's eyes lit to create a life of their own. I love that idea. By the ghosts, he replied, once squeezing her hand. The road stretched out before them, people learn not just to fight or to potential, but to believe in themselves. They knew that the challenges would not disappear overnight, just they were ready to face them together. The more they talked, the strength of their bond, the idea to make the future of their own. They envisioned a vibrant center in their old neighborhood, they took, a place where dance and left behind the remnants of their old lives and embraced the promise of a new beginning, creativity, their self-expression, born under the guise of deception and danger, where the lessons became the greatest strength about guiding them toward a future built on trust and resilience could be passed on to the next generation. As they walked into the dawn of their new life vision, they knew they were finally free to be who they were meant to be. They poured their hearts into transforming an old warehouse into the dream community center. Claire designed a dance studio filled with mirrors and natural light, while Daniel created a training area equipped with everything needed for MMA training. The center quickly became a hub of activity, attracting children and young adults eager to learn from the best. Word spread quickly throughout the community, and soon, their story became a source of inspiration for others. People admired not only their individual talents but the strength of their partnership and the love that had driven them to create something so meaningful. Claire and Daniel's journey from rivals to lovers, from pursuing separate dreams to building a future together, resonated deeply with those around them. They showed that true strength wasn't just about physical power but about embracing vulnerability, trusting in each other, and finding the courage to forge a new path together. As the community center flourished, so did their love. Every day brought new challenges, but they faced them together, united in their purpose and their passion. Their bond, forged in the fires of competition and honed through shared struggle, had grown into something unbreakable. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop of their center, overlooking the vibrant city that had seen them through so much, Claire leaned into Daniel's side, a contented smile on her face. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said softly. Daniel wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "Yeah, we have," he agreed. "But this is just the beginning. We're building something beautiful here, something that will last." As they gazed out at the Lagos skyline, their future stretched out before them, full of promise and possibility. They had discovered that true strength came from embracing both vulnerability and resilience, from trusting in love, and from daring to create something new from the pieces of their past. Together, they were unstoppable, and this new beginning was just the start of an incredible journey, one they would walk side by side, forever.